Are you looking to create a social media management contract from top to bottom? Then this video is your best bet. Now, if you're wondering why it is your best bet, I am a social media manager and at the same time, I am a lawyer. So you can trust that every information that you get from this video is valid. Let's go. Hi, my name is Abdullahi and you are welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, I'm going to be showing you how to create a social media management contract. Like I said, from top to bottom. So first, what is even a contract? Let's begin with that. A contract is a legally binding agreement between two parties that creates, mutual obligations between the both of them that they must adhere to. So let me take that again. A contract is a legally binding agreement between two parties that creates a mutual obligation that they both must adhere to. Now, if you're wondering why a contract is even important or why you need a contract as a social media manager, one, it helps both parties understand and stay in the confines of the responsibilities created by the contract. I know that sounds like a lot, but let me break it down for you. So let's say, for instance, you have spelled out in the contract that in this social media management agreement that is between me and you, some of the things that I'm going to be doing for you includes that I'm going to come up with a content calendar. I'm going to create this particular number of videos for you. I'm going to create this particular number of designs for you. One, that helps you both to understand that this is what this contract entails. Two, it helps you both to stay in the confines of it in such a way that if that client now comes to meet you and say, oh, whatever your name may be, and says, oh, could you help me create this particular thing that is not in the confines of that agreement, then you can point the client back to the contract to let the client know that that particular thing that he or she is requesting for is not in the contract. So number two, it helps you know that that relationship between you and that client is actually a legally binding one. And here's what I mean. So I've had, clients in the past, maybe people that were my friends or people that, people that knew me referred. And because we knew each other, we sat down and we came up with the terms of, our agreement without necessarily putting it into writing. What that did was at some point we would go off beyond what the contract has said. And because you have it at the back of your mind that contract is not in writing, you may not necessarily do all the things that you need to do. And same goes for your client. So maybe if your client needs to pay you, your client may not pay you. So that I don't dwell too much on why a contract is important, let's now go into what to include in your contract. So first of all, before I break, all of these things down, I just want to run through some of the things that you must include in your contract. So first off, you want to show the parties to that agreement. Secondly, you want to ensure that that contract shows the scope of work that agreement covers. Three, you want to show the client responsibilities. What are the things that the client is responsible for to you in that agreement? And four, you want to touch on the compensation. Five, you want to touch on the termination. What are the terms that, if you want to terminate that contract, what are things that both of you must do before you can terminate a contract? Six, you want to show ownership and intellectual property in that contract. What party is going to own stuff as you people continue in your contractual agreement? Seven, you want to show liability and indemnification. So if things come up, who are the people that are going to hold liable in that contract? 8, you want to show confidentiality. 9, you want to mention the law that governs that contract. And finally, you want to sign. You want to ensure that both parties append their signature to that contract. So number one, I said that contract must show the parties to the agreement, the people that are agreeing to that particular contract. So you want to phrase it, don't worry, I'm going to, attach everything that is on my screen. I'm going to attach everything that is on this contract to, my screen just right here, so that as I'm speaking, you are getting what I'm trying to say. So you want to say something like, this social media contract is made effective as of the dates that you are making that particular contract. Then you now state the parties that by and between so person of so person. So maybe you are saying who that person, where that person works. So maybe you are saying that, oh, you're making a contract between Juwonlo Tointon, maybe that's the person's name, and the company that they work. So let's say maybe they work in Safari company. I'm just, coming up with that off the top of my head. So you're stating that who resides at dash. You now say hereafter referred to as client. So let me take that again. You're telling them, you're saying this social media management contract is between so, whatever the name of your client is of their company, who resides at dash. You may not necessarily want to include where they reside at, but it helps. So if anything comes up, we know the law knows where to trace that person to. So you're telling them that, and then you are now mentioning your own name. Then you put your own name, and maybe your name is like, my name is Orolua Abdullahi. So I'm going to put and Orolua Abdullahi, who resides at so. Then you're going to put a clause that helps you, that you say hereafter referred to as social media manager. So the next part of this contract is the scope of service. In your scope of service, you want to mention everything that you are agreeing to provide as a service to your client. So for this, people have gone as far as saying that you want to state it in total, like to the very last detail, what you want to include in your contract. You may not want to do that, but I like to do that, because what it does is that like I said, it lets your client know that these are the things that you and I agreed on from the get-go. Did we agree to making you 3 videos per week? Did we agree to making you 2 graphic designs per week? Did we agree to posting every day on your social media platforms? What social media platforms did we agree to? Like I said, you may not necessarily want to do this, but you can just make sure that you say that the services that you have agreed to provide to the client, maybe they include posting across their social media platforms and every other thing that you have agreed to. So the next thing that we want to talk about is the client responsibility. So what does client responsibility actually entail? Now, if you're a social media manager, or if you've been in the business for a little while, you understand that while many clients may not necessarily mean bad, but there are times that your client would promise that, oh, I would provide you these particular things that would aid the process of, you carrying out your service, and they may not necessarily abide by that. So to avoid, stories that touch, you want to tell your clients ahead that these are the things that you would be providing to me. If it is that client is supposed to be providing you their logo, to provide you some number of videos ahead, you want to ensure that you also state that in the contract. So the next part is compensation. So in your compensation, for the terms of your compensation, you want to tell the client how much you both have agreed to pay as the social media manager fee for that contract. If there are any other extra compensation that would need to be paid. So maybe if your social media management contract doesn't cover for ads, you want to state that. So even if you want to also state that if you're going to have to leave your house to go to theirs to make videos, you also want to state that in the contract. So the next thing you want to state for termination, here you want to tell your client, and this is very, very important, because there have been cases where clients will just wake up one day and say that they do not want to continue with that contract, and because that doesn't do you any good. So because of you are running a business, you're not just doing people favors, you're not just playing around, right? You want to ensure that you are telling your client ahead that before you terminate this contract, can you please give me a 14-day notice, or a 1-month notice, or a 3-month notice? What that does is it covers you and it prepares you ahead to know that, okay, it is time to begin to search for new clients. Unlike, because clients can be very funny. People can wake up one day and say that, oh, I don't think that this agreement pays me anymore. Can we stop, working together? But because you have stated it in your contract that before they can terminate that contract, they have to give you a particular number of days notice. So like I said, whether 14 days, whether a month or 3 months, you want to state that in your contract. So the next clause that you want to attach is ownership and intellectual property. So you want to agree with your clients that after you have created stuff for them, who is going to be the owner of that stuff? Are you going to still hold on to are you going to still hold on to that intellectual property? Because if you didn't know, I'm letting you know now that intellectual property is actually a big deal. So you and your clients, you guys want to both agree on, after I've created this content for you, who does this content belong to? If I've done this design for you, who does it belong to? The back end and, the front end. I'm sure you get what I mean. Maybe the things that, how you came up with that design, and also the design in itself. Just ensure that you discuss everything about your, like everything that you should own and everything about your intellectual property with the client. So the next thing that you want to talk about is liability and indemnification. So maybe if something happens on the social media platforms that you are managing, maybe when you post something on LinkedIn, somebody sees it and, it causes like some form of harm to the person, you want to ensure that you state who should be held liable. Let me read what I wrote for my own. I wrote that the client agrees to indemnify and hold harmless the social media manager from any claims, damages, or expenses arising from the client's use of social media platform. So what this also means is that because that particular role, that particular social media management role that you are performing in is in a way you're working for the client. Everybody that sees what you post, they see it as your client, right? So you want to state it that if anything should come up, you wouldn't be held liable, especially because this particular function, you are carrying it out vicariously, right, through that client. So it is a client that will be vicariously liable, not you. All right, so the next thing is confidentiality. You want to ensure that you assure your client that whatever information that passes between the both of you would be held in confidence. You want to ensure them that whatever it is, whether their analytics, whether their logins, whether their day-to-day process, that they do not want, any other person out there to know about. Sometimes if you are going to be working for like a bigger client, what some people always do is that they would also state in this confidentiality agreement, in this confidentiality clause, that you're not going to be working with another client that closely does what your client also does in maybe a particular number of months, a particular number of years. But if you're not working for a big client, then you have no reason to worry. Second to the last, you want to include your governing law. What laws would govern that contract? If something happens today, what laws are you both going to, reference that, okay, this is the law that is governing this contract? So you want to state that. Finally, you want to ensure that you both append your signatures to the contract, because a contract without signatures is not any contract and it's not going to be legally binding on both parties. All right, I hope that this video has been helpful to you. If it has been helpful, again, please like this video and let me know, your thoughts. Let me know any questions that you may have in the comment section. And finally, even though I have said that I am a lawyer, I went to law school, I got called to bar, and you can believe everything that I have shared with you in this video, it would also help that you run your social media management contract by your friends and any other lawyers in case you want to include any other clause that I have not covered in this video. All right, thank you very much for watching this video. See you on my next upload. And if this is your first time on this channel, tell me why you have not subscribed. Subscribe.